Alright, so first, of course, we're going to remove the cover. Of course, 3 screws here. Already took those out. Take off the cover. And the filter. Now I have a reusable filter here. It's off. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take everything apart. Since I've had this apart plenty of times, I know what goes where. So I'm going to just take it all apart and clean everything and put it all back together. Alright, now this just pops off. Now we're getting into the main carb here. It's all nice and nasty and dirty. But by the end of this, it'll be all nice, pretty, and shiny. So the next thing I'm going to remove is the intake manifold. Break that. And there's 2 bolts here. Alright, now we're getting into the carburetor itself. This right here is where you would drain the gas from. And I think I'm not going to worry about that, because I'm going to take the whole bowl off anyway, because this is the bowl. This piece right here is where the diaphragm is for the accelerator pump. There we go. Float's looking good. This gasket is old. There's no gas in here anymore. Alright. But there you have it. There is the disassembly of the S&S Super E. Let me clean everything up and I'll come back to y'all. Alright, so here we go with starting to put everything back together. You should really replace everything and get brand new, just so that you don't have to worry about having any problems later on after you put everything back together. Alright, so I moved over here. Now this is the bottom of the bowl. Alright, and this area is where the accelerator pump goes. These 2 ports right here have ball bearings in it. This one has a spring in it. This one doesn't. Be careful when you take the accelerator pump cover off. This will jump out. I lost it in the carpet, but luckily I found it, so we're good. Remember, these can be kind of difficult to find, just these ball bearings, and they're important. So now, first things first, I'm going to take the little bitty spring, put it down into there. Alright, you can get little ball bearings. Put them down in there too. 2 different spots. This is the actual accelerator pump itself. It's just a little diaphragm. It gets pushed down on and squirts fuel up into. There's a spring in there. Little spring in there. Rubber diaphragm. And the diaphragm fits down in that groove. Alright. Now the bowl gasket itself is a big gray gasket. That's going to go on top. Alright. And then there's an O-ring that goes on this. But first, got to install the float and the float needle. Anybody who's not familiar with how carburetor works, in this section, basically, floats on top of the gasoline that's in the bowl, because the bowl fills up with gas. And once it gets to a certain level, the float will have this, which is the float needle, close off the port down there, cutting off the flow of gasoline. And all it does is it hooks on the end of the float like that. Or the needle into that little port, and then the bar that I installed here is going to go in that little trough right there. It's going to sit down in there. Alright, now there's a little screw that goes right there to hold that bar in place. Alright. Alright, now I'm going to place the new gasket. All the gaskets are on the bowl, so we're going to go ahead and put the bowl on here and tighten down the screws. One thing I will mention beforehand is this is a rod that is what pushes down the diaphragm of the accelerator pump. Okay, so make sure that's in place. And there is a boot right here that if it gets all messed up, you can replace that. So let's get that. All right. Now all we got to do is replace those 4 screws. Remember, the 3 short ones go around the body here, and then the one long one goes up by the accelerator pump. There you have the carburetor and the bowler back together. Alright, so next thing is, alright, so now we're going to put the new O-ring that goes in this groove. There we go. It's super easy, super simple. You take the O-ring, you put it down in there. Put that block there. And we gotta put a new O-ring in that groove as well. This goes on top of there. Then the intake manifold on top of that. Alright. Alright. That's all back on there. Put this plate on. And I'm going to mention there's a gasket that goes back into this plate that meets up to the surface here on the carburetor. Now when you're putting this on too, remember you have to line up this lever, which is the it's not a choke. A lot of people want to say it's a choke, but it is the enrichment valve, which I'll explain what the difference is between a choke and enrichment valve. But that has to line up, that fork on there has to line up with this piece here. And always make sure once you get this on there that this operates properly. So here's the plate. Now at this point you would install this on the bike. Like I said before, on the intake manifold here, got these brackets, And you'll get the gasket. It goes inside there in that groove, and then 2 bolts on either side. This goes into each head. Then once you get all that set up, you'll also put breather bolts in through here, which go into the head as well, to the breather ports of the head. And that is really it. You'll throw the air filter on like so. After that, all you're going to do is put the cover back on, and there's 3 bolts. And here I have the classic teardrop S&S cover.